Hello, and welcome back to Freedom from Fire. During these very strenuous times, managing social distancing and making sure that we continue to follow appropriate safety guidelines, Freedom from Fire will continue to embrace the digital style via Zoom. We strive consistently, as always, to bring you valuable content and information to our viewers, as well as occasionally providing our very amazing interviews. However, for this particular segment, there are some very interesting points that I would like to highlight. One of which that will lead us into our conversation today. Did you know that half of all home heating fires occur in December, January, and February? So let's try and put a freeze on winter fires. So please stay tuned. Hello, and welcome back to Freedom from Fire. I will be your host, Lieutenant Lisa Desimore. I'm currently stationed in our department's Fire Prevention and Code Division, where community risk reduction efforts and compliant city code standards are a primary goal. Here at Freedom from Fire, we aim to improve your quality of living by giving you fire and life safety information. And from time to time, we also introduce you to our local safety partners. This segment, we are going to focus on the importance of understanding fire safety, including developing a home escape plan, smoke alarms, and fire safety tips. Recently, the city suffered the tragic loss of 12 citizens. This tragedy has reinforced the essential need to incorporate fire safety practices in our everyday lives. Tragedy then strikes again in a New York City high rise occupancy. Dozens of families are affected, and again, tragic loss of life. These very devastating events bring so many questions to mind. My hope is that we can learn from these tragedies and better prepare ourselves when it comes to fire. So, I want to thank all of our viewers for tuning in with us today because hopefully, if nothing else, you take something new from that, spread the information because a lot of times we take advantage and just assume that everyone is aware of basic fire safety information, knowledge, however you'd like to refer to it. But that's not always the case. Or sometimes people get complacent and totally get it because it happens to us. We're human, we're not infallible. But just, basic reminders lets us know that, hey, this is something that we definitely need to keep in our minds. Let's begin with smoke alarms. Here in the city of Philadelphia, every residential setting must have working smoke alarms. The minimum is one detector for every level of your home. That includes the basement as well. Oftentimes, people forget basement and sub-level settings. Do not forget that. And ideally, of course, one in each sleeping area. Alarms installed near the kitchen can become a nuisance, so avoid that area. And too close to the bathroom can also be a nuisance as well, especially from taking hot showers. So try to avoid that area as well. And when I reference it being, becoming a nuisance, oftentimes from that, what people will do is take out the batteries, beat the detector up, render it inoperable. We don't want that to happen. Sometimes maybe, you're baking at a high temperature or you're burning bacon or burning toast and you kind of accidentally set the smoke alarm off. Becomes a nuisance. There, as I mentioned a moment ago, you would take the alarms out. So we would say, the batteries out. We would say just avoid those areas, nowhere near the kitchen if you can help it, nowhere near the bathroom because I know I love taking really hot showers. Most women do. So as I said moments ago, just try to avoid those areas. Newer alarms have 10-year lithium batteries. Therefore, the need to change the battery is not needed. In fact, The battery compartment is made so that it can't be opened. It's very important, however, to still test your alarms to make sure they're in working order. And if not, just replace the detector itself. Fire is fast. In less than 30 seconds, a small flame can turn into a potentially significant fire. Smoke and toxic gases from a fire in a home kill more people than actual flames. Every home needs fire protection and a home escape plan in the event of a fire. Home escape plans are not only important, but very necessary. Talk with your family about what to do if there's ever a fire and practice your plan as well. It doesn't have to be something that sounds like a chore. Make it fun, especially if you have little people. Kids love that kind of stuff. Every year during Fire Prevention Week, the fire department conducts a citywide fire drill where we demonstrate what happens when you have a plan in place and the response of the fire department. It's a really awesome event. Sometimes it is televised, and basically, we're letting citizens know, and it serves as a reminder, hey, make sure you have a plan in place and make sure you practice it. Also, keep in mind that a closed door can actually help stop the spread of gas, high heat, and smoke. Know two ways out of your home and try to practice your plan at least twice a year. And establishing a meeting place is key. Letting you know if everyone is out safely or not is imperative for everyone that's involved in this particular incident. You want to make sure that when you get to that meeting place, you have some sort of accountability in place. There you go. So and so is here, so and so is here. Everyone is aware where it is located. And if someone is not there, you let fire personnel on scene know of that. Also recognize that is when you call 911, when you are safely out of a burning building. Never call 911 from inside of that building. Never ever go into a burning building. A lot of times that sounds like something that just, an unspoken known fact, but a lot of times during moments of an emergency, our minds tend to think differently. And in a rash of things, you will get scared, you will get nervous. Your thought process is sometimes different. Your life is not replaceable. However, furniture, material things very much are. We're going to take a short break, but when we return, we will continue with some basic fire safety tips from a member here in fire prevention. So until then, please stay tuned.
As birthplace to the first volunteer fire companies, Philadelphia is home to one of the nation's premier fire museums. Fireman's Hall Museum displays the city's fire history in addition to promoting fire safety. You can visit Fireman's Hall Museum in Old City at 147 North 2nd Street. Visit firemanshallmuseum.org to learn more, or watch the museum's show, Curator's Corner, on LaSalle TV.
Welcome back to Freedom from Fire. I'm your host, Lieutenant Lisa Desamore. So what are some good basic fire safety tips to recognize and, of course, follow? I have firefighter Jonathan Reinhardt, who will share some information with us, and I'll ask him a couple questions as well. We are certainly aware of ensuring that we teach our young people the importance of basic fire safety information. And of course, that fire is absolutely nothing to play with. But Jonathan, what are some other good information, some tips that you can share with us? We can start off with, we're in the wintertime. We are coming upon a storm, and I'm sure there's lots of folks, with portable heaters and stuff like that. So what are some good winter tips to follow?
So some good winter tips to follow is, well, I would suggest if you do not have a portable heater, do not use your oven as a portable heater or as a larger heater. A lot of people will try to either boil water on their stovetop to get hot air moving around, or turn the oven on and leave the door open. Those just are not safe options. Leaving the oven open If you're not getting complete combustion inside, you're letting carbon monoxide escape out. And so, in addition to the fire hazard, there you also have the poisonous gas of the carbon monoxide.
Right. And that's good stuff that you just brought up, especially with the oven. I mean, I remember when I was younger, people doing that, but people, still tend to do that considering, there's a diverse, set of circumstances here in the city, but that's something that you're compromising safety, and we don't want to do that. How about like if folks want to buy like portable heaters? I mean, what do we think of those?
So with portable heaters, they can be safe. They can be used safely. You want to make sure that you're buying a heater that has the UL listing symbol on it. That means it meets a certain level of safety standards and electrical quality. So there's a lower chance of it shorting and creating a problem that way.
Okay.
You want to make sure that it's plugged in directly to a wall outlet. You don't want to use an extension cord with it. That extension cord is you're drawing more energy. If you're attaching more things to that extension cord other than the heater, then you're drawing more energy than that circuit is made for. The electric heater, you want to make sure that it's plugged into the wall and there's space around it. You want about 3 feet of space in a full radius around it. Anything that gets too close, that heat's going to build up on it and that can combust.
And a lot of times, folks, we tend to, forget that. I mean, it sounds like a lot of information, sounds like stuff that's just known. But again, simple reminders can save a life. And I think folks kind of forget just the simple stuff a lot of times. Even something as simple as we're not putting portable heaters on a rug. Is that correct?
Right. You don't want to put it on a rug. You want it to have a flat, level surface.
Okay.
To avoid tipping and falling. There are some heaters that you can buy that have auto off. They turn off if they tilt over or fall, something like that. And if that's an option for you, that's definitely a great thing to get.
Awesome. What about with smoke alarms? I know this is something that here in prevention, it's messaging that we put out quite often, but it's messaging also that we need to continuously do, just to make sure that everyone is aware. It's just having an awareness and having that knowledge. So if you want a smoke alarm, what do you do?
So if you want a smoke alarm, and your circumstances don't allow you to you can't afford one for yourself, you can call 311, which is our services system in the city, and let them know that you want a smoke alarm. They'll take all of your information. That information gets organized and sent over to us, and then we at the fire department can come out to your house to give you the smoke alarms, and we will actually install them to make sure that they're not only installed, but they're installed in the right spots. You don't want to just get a smoke alarm and sit it on top of your TV or your entertainment system. It needs to be in the best spots possible.
Absolutely. And that's what I was actually referencing earlier. We need to make sure that they are, not only do you have them, but they're in working order. And then, for folks that still have the 9-volt battery, smoke detectors, make sure you can, you get the newer ones. And if you can't, for whatever reason, just maintain that 9-volt battery smoke detector by making sure that you test it and you change out the batteries when you're supposed to. What about for folks who are hearing impaired, really quick, how would they go about getting those alarms as well?
So we have through 311, when you're getting smoke alarms, you let someone know that you have a hearing impairment, deaf, hard of hearing, anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have a special alarm that it will pick up the signal that's sent out by the normal alarms.
Okay.
And it has a little disc that slides under your mattress, and that's going to vibrate to help wake you up. And then there's a screen on it that's going to flash bright orange, and it lets out its own tone, which is at a different pitch than the smoke alarm's going off. And so all three of these things combined to try to help people that are just getting hard of hearing from age, people that are, were born deaf or anything like that. Just more ways to help get them up and out of the house.
That's awesome. And
And it's
for folks,
completely free. Sorry.
no, you're good. Thank you for putting
Sorry.
that out there. Again, we put so much messaging out. You know, you want to go back and make sure that you get everything out that you can. No worries. So, this brings me to when I mentioned earlier about the tragedy in New York City. That was a high-rise fire, a high-rise residential apartment building. What are some? It's a unique circumstances, so it's not just your regular one or two people house. What are some safety tips that we should be aware of if you're ever involved in a high-rise fire?
So I cannot speak to the situation of that fire in particular, but
Correct.
more generally, you want to, every time you hear the alarms going off in your building, you want to take it seriously.
Absolutely.
Many times it'll be a false alarm, it'll be someone cooking, but you never know which time is going to be the tragedy. So you want to know your escape plan and how you're gonna go about that, which set of stairs you're gonna use, because you're not gonna use an elevator, right?
Correct.
Um, and for you got to know who you're living with. If you're living with elderly people, people that have hard times on the stairs,
Right.
you want to speak with your building manager, see what their plan is for you. If you can go to a lower level to get out easier, or if your level isn't on fire per se, it may be better for you to shelter in place, get some towels, put it under the base of the door so smoke's not coming in, and that way you can be safe inside until us, the fire department, can come out and help you.
Awesome. That is wonderful information. A lot of the safety tips, again, because we're talking about a residential setting, they apply to, the one, two family, dwellings as well. But obviously, given unique circumstances, when you have a high rise, it'll be a little bit different. But I'm glad you mentioned about, stuffing something underneath the door because obviously, oftentimes you have that 1 inch gap. And hopefully, folks will recognize you can throw anything under there. I mean, anything soft, right? Sheets, dirty towels, dirty socks, and all that kind of good stuff. Um, and I know we teach this to our little people, especially our school team that goes out to the schools and gives the assembly sessions. So we're teaching during that home escape plan, the more detailed portion of it. We're teaching, from the moment you wake up and you hear that smoke alarm, and you sit up in your bed and you get down on the floor. What happens next?
Right. So yeah, you hear the smoke alarm. You want to stay low in case there's any smoke in your sleeping area, in your apartments. For this instance, you want to make your way to the doors. You want to use the back of your hand, of course, to feel the door for heat. If the door, and you want to try to get aware of your surroundings. If the door is not hot, you can turn on the light in your room. Try to get a look around what's happening. Look out your window real quick if you can. Try to figure out what is going on in your situation. And if that door is cold, then continue out to try to find out what's wrong. With the alarm already going off, if you're in an apartment complex or a condominium or anything like that, know if that alarm going off automatically calls the fire department, or if you need to evacuate yourself and then call the fire department.
Right. And we're always promoting, no matter the circumstances, when we know that there's, something that compromises your safety, you wait till you get to a safe location. And then that's when you're calling 911 regardless, I think it's important for not just our young people, but for adults to recognize that those tips are not only for the little people. It's not something we only teach them, right? It's something that we teach the adults as well. And when you have the plan in place, because a lot of times what I'll get questions of, okay, so what if it is safe? What if I can look out my door and it looks, okay for me to get out? And then I say, well, then that's very much what you will do. You will get out and get to your meeting place. And I've heard all kinds of comments from, I'm going to go for my cell phone charger or my PlayStation 5, or I got to grab this or grab this. or even grab a pet. So what do we say to, comments such as that when people make those comments?
Right. So we want you to get out as quickly and safely as possible. And your pets, if you're unless your pet is locked in a cage, your pet is going to find its own way out. Right? It's going to be safe. It's going to get its own way out. It doesn't want to be there either.
Right.
Right? And your belongings, uh, they might be personal belongings, sentimental ones, expensive ones. If they can be replaced, you're gonna have to replace them if there's a problem. But that is your life is more important.
Correct.
Essentially, is the baseline.
Yep. I think, and again, that's something that not only do we teach to our little people, our young people, we let adults know as well. I think I believe I referenced it earlier when I made a point about how during emergency situations you tend to think differently and you tend to panic, which kind of goes with why we say practice those drills. It's not something where it's a one and done situation, or we talked about it once and then you forget about it, right? You want to make sure that you know what you're doing. Practice, 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 repetition. So it's something that it's almost instinctual, for lack of a better word, because you're going to get scared. You are going to get scared. That's not something that the fire department doesn't recognize, or anyone. We're not saying you're putting on your superhero cape. We're saying that you practice specific safety guidelines as it relates to a fire situation, and we can hopefully avoid more tragedies, because sad situations are something after the fact we look at and say, how can we prevent this from ever happening again? And that's the ultimate goal. Is there anything else, Jonathan, that I may have missed that you want to add on really quick?
Um, I would like to emphasize that in your house, your apartment, your condominium, when you're going to sleep, you want to make sure that all of the doors are shut. Having all we you mentioned earlier, I remember keeping your bedroom door shut, but every door that's shut is another obstacle in the way of the fire spreading.
Hmm.
So having every door possible shut helps to confine that fire as much as possible. And while you're practicing your fire drill, your home escape plan with your children, switch up the scenario a little bit, because you want to make sure that they don't just automatically run down the stairs or crawl
Right.
down the stairs. If the fire's on that first floor or in that stairwell, you want to try to give them multiple options and think of it as a family and plan it out.
That is perfect. Thank you, Jonathan. That was some really good information that you shared with us. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much again for joining us today and taking the time out of your busy schedule. Um, Remember, if you would like to find out more about us on LaSalle TV, you can check out our social media sites. And if you are interested in learning about the Philadelphia Fire Department, visit our Facebook, Twitter, and web pages. Also, check out Fireman's Hall Museum, located at 147 North 2nd Street, and meet our museum curator, firefighter Brian Anderson. I would like to once again thank Jonathan for joining us today. And I would like to thank my viewers for tuning in and watching. So until next time, remember, fire is everyone's fight. Stay safe and remain free from fire.